Now, let's start with welcoming, first of all of you. Thank you for taking the time to join our alumni speaker session today, which is in partnership with Dubai Knowledge Park. And today's session, we have one of our guests and alumni, Jyothika Shetty, who is a strategic life coach and author of a book she will tell us more about. Today's session, the topic is called Your Turning Point, Creating a Comeback That is Stronger Than Your Setback. Jyothika is an alumna of Alliance Manchester Business School, and she is a former corporate banker with over a decade of experience in the field of commercial banking, risk and financial management with BNP Paribas. This is followed by over 11 years of experience as an entrepreneur in a family-owned construction business in Dubai. She is a public speaker and a Toastmaster for the last 8 years and international author of the book Back in Control, a woman's journey of managing unexpected changes. Jyothika is also a strategic life coach where she partners with clients in a thought-provoking and systematic process that helps them to maximize their personal and professional potential. She also holds an international diploma in compliance and is a certified soft skills trainer and image consultant. Her passion lies in the area of public speaking, writing, and coaching, and has mentored several aspirants to conquer the fear of public speaking and become effective leaders. Jyothika is a mother of 3 children and has been married for the last 23 years. She loves to connect with people and has a vision to impact the lives of 5,000 people by the 31st of December 2025. And she says the magic has just begun. Well, Jyothika, we can't wait to learn more about this magic and to be part of your journey as well. A very warm welcome to you. And now I'll give it to you to tell us more about the topic and the session.
Thank you very much, Shiba. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay. Thank you very much, Shiba. It's always a pleasure to come back to Manchester, not only as a speaker, but also as an alumni. Thank you, first of all, for that lovely introduction and giving me an opportunity to speak here again. Today's topic, turning point, is something that is very close to my heart. Close to my heart is not because it's a part of my work, but it's also something that I have experienced personally. And that's why I love sharing things when it has the potential to impact others' lives. And it's also more important now because I think the kind of situation people are in, it's the concept of success, what people think they're going to pay for themselves, that essentially needs to include aspects that they are not aware of. So today in Turning Point, I'm going to talk about those aspects which will help you create a foundation for yourself. So in case if you're in a situation where you're not able to find clarity or you're in a conundrum of how to move forward, what we're going to discuss today will probably help you to create a foundation that is much more stronger than what you thought it was. So let me just share my screen first. First of all, a very good evening to all of you, and thank you very much for attending the session. And I hope the next 1 hour is filled with a lot of learning. So today's session is known as Your Turning Point. I just gave you a gist of what turning point is. But let me just explain to you what I mean by turning point. Turning point is your defining moment where you all of a sudden create a different perspective towards your life or the way you look at life. Usually a turning point is a result of a pain point or even a pleasure point, not necessarily pain point. But what I'd like to look at today are those learnings that you have from those areas that give you a lot of trouble or your pain points, because the lessons that you learn from those pain areas are profound. And that's where your comeback is always more sweeter. So essentially, when I say creating a comeback that is stronger than your setback, as human beings, setback is a part of our life, something that we cannot avoid. Probably the degree of setback could be different on how each one deals with it and the degree of experience may be different, but at the end of it, setback is going to come to us at least one point or the other. That could come in the form of a job loss. If you're in business, probably a business loss, a financial problem, or even personal problems for that matter, ill health, loss in the family, anything could be a setback. And usually people term setback as suffering. Yes, it is a pain point. Yes, you're going to go through some form of suffering, but it does not necessarily have to be there. It does not necessarily have to be your future. But when you're planning your comeback, which is totally within your control, what you have to know is that there are certain fundamental aspects that you need to take care of, which are essential, which people often ignore while creating their so-called success concept. When you are aware of all these aspects, you're sure that you're going to create a comeback that is much more stronger and sustainable. So very good evening once again. Let's move forward in today's session of Your Turning Point. A setback usually comes with a change which usually we as human beings don't like change, and we often detest change. We detest change because that brings a sense of discomfort. We do not like change because it has got an element of mystery, an element of not being in control, and that's why you feel that, oh, I do not like change, unless it's something that you want on your own. But usually when there is a change, people are aversive to change. So before we get into anything more, let me just explain to you in a basic understanding of what change is. I know you all of you know what change is, but I'd like to show you a basic slide, which I don't think I can get any basic than this. These are the stages of, this is a metamorphosis of a butterfly, right? These are the 4 stages that we have learned in our biology class, probably when we were small. Then there are 4 stages that a butterfly goes through: egg, larva, pupa, and then the beautiful butterfly that we see. Now, if you look at the 4 changes, every stage moves into another stage, losing its previous stage, which is what pretty much change is all about. And if you look at change, the meaning of change, it is a general transition of something or phase to another state condition, which means any change includes losing your current part or full state that you are in currently. And that is where people fear change, because they do not know what that change encompasses. They do not know what they're heading to, and it brings in a lot of discomfort. And you often probably heard that people do not like change. Now, I'm not here to give you a class or a webinar on change management. That's not my expertise, and that's not what I plan to do. But before I get into the crux of the matter, it is important for me to at least introduce to you what is change. So like I said, change evokes fear, and there are various reasons why one fears change. And for me, the highlight was fear of success. Can you imagine? People even fear success. So think about everything. There is an element of fear because the change is included there. So some of them are shown in your screen: fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of unknown. The reasons are many. But today I'm going to talk about 2 changes. Although I'm not going to talk about these changes in detail, but as an introductory concept, I will be talking about two changes. That is the planned change and the unplanned change. Now, planned change is something that is totally within your control. You're aware of it. You know what it is. The results may not be guaranteed, but at least you know you're comfortable and it's pretty much what you want to do. But what about unplanned change? And unfortunately or fortunately, planned change and unplanned change is a part of life, whether you like it or not. It is going to be there at one stage or the other, and that is what you have to decide how you're going to handle unplanned change. Let me begin with a small story. I lost my dad when I was 21 years old. That's quite a number of years back, so I'm not going to reveal my age, but that was a few years back that I lost my dad when I was 21 years old. Now, this particular incident was traumatic for me, definitely, and it was very difficult for me to overcome this particular incident. As much as I tried for the next few years, it almost, I think more than 20 years it took me to actually reconcile with the trauma that I had gone through. Now, 20 years or 22 years, a very long time to be in that particular zone. And it was not easy for me. It's not that I didn't have a great life. I had a great life, a great successful career. I did what I had to do. I did all of that. Great family, children, and all of that. But yet, when it came to handling certain adversities of life, I would fall weak. Weak because there was a trauma that was not handled in the way it had to be handled. As much as you say, like pretty much past baggages. So this was the effect of the unplanned change that happened to me, that when I had to take certain important decisions in life, or I had to face adversities, it was very difficult because I know internally I was not completely healed. And that is the story of unplanned change. So let me just explain to you what happens when someone faces an unplanned change. For example, you may think that, say you had a job loss, right? And all your life, you may be thinking that at 50, or I'm going to retire, or I'm going to do what I want to do, at least have a life of my own. You have a great job, a great income, and you've done pretty much what you had to do. And the plan was to retire at 50 or 55. But when you reach 40 or 42, something happens in your life that completely changes your perspective towards life. It could also be that you lose the income that you have, or the wealth that you have created, and completely putting you in a hopeless situation. So when such things happen, usually a human being, a normal human being, goes through 5 stages. Now, this is the only stage, or this is the only slide I will be explaining to you the theoretical aspect of change, right? This is a model which was introduced by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross in the year 1969, and where she speaks about the 5 stages that a person goes through when they go through grief. That's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Now, what is denial? Denial is pretty much a stage that we face when we face the unexpected, right? When something happens in our life, we live in a denial mode, completely confused, not knowing what's happening, and you are not in tune with reality. And that's what happened to me as well. When my dad passed away, I was completely in denial that it cannot happen. And I was confused how to handle the situation. Slowly, I moved on to the anger stage when it sank into me. Why me? What did I do wrong that I had to lose my dad at 21 and to precisely on my 21st birthday? And it cannot get bad than that. I was angry at the world. I complained. And then I moved into the bargaining stage. Although I would say bargaining for me was not quite dominant, because bargaining is a stage when you do not go through extreme trauma. Like, for example, you say you've lost, when you're in a business, you face some unexpected situation. And bargaining is a stage when you just hope and pray that things are going to be all right. You start reaching out to people for some help. And you just hope and hope that things are going to be okay. And when things don't be okay, then you move on to the next stage, which is the depressive state, where you're completely hopeless of what are you going to do in life. And I think you all probably understand that human being, the normal tendency of a human being is to stay in this particular situation or the 4 stages for a very long time. And it pretty much happened with me because I stayed in denial and anger stage for a very long time. And the more you stay in this particular stage, in these 4 stages, longer is your recovery in life. And once you move past these 4 stages, the last stage is the acceptance stage, where you start exploring possibilities and you start looking at a curve which goes north.
Jyothika, we have, if I can interrupt a little bit, we have a question in the chat box. He's asking if he would like to know, what does the y-axis represent? So I guess the x-axis is time. And y-axis is the stages that he's going through.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes, it is the time that you take to move from stage A to stage C, A, B, C, D. The 5 stages that you take, that is the time that you take. And the different stages that you go upwards is the kind of, the intensity that you have in terms of denial. Because denial is a stage when you're in a most painful mode. If something bad happens to you, then you know that I'm completely in denial stage, and that denial stage could be devastating as well, right? The intensity of affecting that stage affecting your life is much more, and that's what the axis means. If you look at the acceptance curve goes much higher than the denial stage, which means that when you accept the stage, when you reach the stage of acceptance, the possibilities are immense. The opportunities that you have are so different that you wouldn't even comprehend it when you are in the first 4 stages. And that is what we understand, the effort that we have to make is move past these 4 stages, which obviously is not going to happen overnight. And it is a conscious effort for you to understand a few basic fundamental aspects that we're going to talk about in this webinar. Now, what happened to me when I was in this particular stage? I was complaining, I was angry, I was not willing to move past the stage. Until 2 years back, I made a decision. Till the time you do not make a conscious decision of moving past this decision, this particular stage, it's very difficult to move to the acceptance stage. And 2 years back, I decided to make that change. And how did I do it? Obviously, I decided to do something different, which I don't know how many people do that, is write my entire story in the form of a book so that I could share this particular story with the others. Writing is a passion for me. I do writing. I've been doing writing for a very long time. And that's the only way that I could think of bringing my passion and my pain together. And that's where I say, when was the last time that you have converted your pain into power? Because we often don't underestimate our ability to convert our pain into power. Recently, I came out with a video where I said that during the COVID times, there was an 85-year-old man who was being treated for COVID in a hospital here in India. And there was a 40-year-old patient who was denied admission by the hospital. Now, he was denied admission because they didn't have beds. At that moment, the 85-year-old man came up and said that I have lived my life. There's nothing more that I can do. I want this 40-year-old man to live his life because he has a young family to take care of. And I'm going to give up my bed for him. And he did that. He went home. Unfortunately, 3 days later, he passed away. But the power that he recognized that he had, even during the times of pain, was that what created the magic. And I did something of my own, in my own capacity, that was to write a book. And this book was published in October 2020, where I discussed my journey of facing unexpected changes and what did I do in order to overcome these changes. When people came back to me during COVID times and they lost their loved ones, when people came back to me, my own family members, in fact, who had certain unexpected events, they came back to me and said, this was the time that we needed to read this book. And thank you for writing it. Now, I don't know if it's going to be a bestseller, but that's not why I wrote this. I wrote this because even if I'm able to make a difference to one person, my mission is accomplished. I have converted my pain into power, and that's where I was heading to, because it was my therapeutic journey as well to recover my pain, to overcome my pain that I was going through. So what changed in the last 2 years compared to the first 20 years that I was suffering, or I was at least in that depressive mode? My perspective, the way I looked at things. Now, there are many times that you see a situation and you only focus on the things that go wrong. It's we kind of completely lose our ability to look at things in a brighter way. And that's where the perspective comes into being. And perspective does not come easily because there are few things that you need to know in order to create a perspective that is clear and with clarity. And that is called as your relationship with yourself. If I put a poll here, Hiba, now that, can you all tell me how many of you know yourself well? I'm sure most of you will say that, yes, I know myself well. I'm pretty much aware of who I am. But if I pick each one of you and ask you questions about yourself, majority of them will come up saying that I still don't know myself. And this is what happens to us. And that's where it's very important to know who you are. Few days back, there was a gentleman who came up to me and he was in a very stuck up situation. Actually, he was frustrated and he was trying to tell me that he was trying to set up a business for himself. Apparently, he has achieved the heights of success and he knows what he's doing. There's nothing much that he can learn, he says, and he wanted to set up his own business. And looking at the current situation, he was obviously not able to set up the business because he has no buyers, he has no clients who can come up and show their demand. And he was like, how do I set up this business when there's so much of negativity around? I said, okay, fine, all right. I'm not sure how much I can do for you to make a successful business, but I can definitely ask you a few powerful questions that probably could actually help us to arrive at the actual conclusion. During my course of discussion, I asked him a few questions, realizing that the reason behind setting up this business was totally different. He was trying to set up a business because he felt that he was not up to the mark. He was not confident. And all of this, despite the fact that he was good at his job, a brainy child, a brainy guy, much younger than me, that's why I call him a child, quite on the top of his work. And he was working for a very big firm and he had done very well. So what went wrong? Why was he so pressurized? He was pressurized because he didn't know himself well. He had underestimated his capacity and his ability that he had, and he was trying to live up to the expectations that the society has set for him, as a result of which he was looking at only one direction, which was setting up this business, which was moving towards a dead end. And when we looked at his actual deep into his situation, I realized that he was a topper in his school. He had already modules, he was a civil engineer by profession, and he had already got modules which had already published, but he was not doing anything about it. He was a great public speaker. He had all the potential to add value to other people. Now, all of these positive points that he had was totally pushed or brushed under the carpet, and he was just looking at one direction that was a dead end, and that was enough for him to say that I am good for nothing. And that's the reason you need to know who you are before you start your inward journey of creating a success blueprint for yourself. For example, today you may think that I want to move my job and move into a business, just like this person. But if you do not know at what stage in mind or what state of mind you're making that decision, how will you be able to build a successful business for yourself? And that's where just not knowing your personality assessment, just not knowing your personality is important, but knowing which state of mind you operate under is very important. At this point, I would like to announce that I have requested Hiba to, you probably are wondering how will you get your personality assessment. There are multiple ways in which you can go and get personality assessments online, but specifically the personality assessment that I will be posting at the end of this webinar, Hiba will be posting it in the chat box. You're free to go and take your personality assessment, where you will be able to understand your deep behavior in different state of mind. For example, in my personality, I'm a reformer. A reformer is someone who has a lot of clarity and does things and knows what they have to do. And that is a very good state I operate in. Now imagine I have to do a very good, an important decision in my very good state. My very good state will help me make some great decisions, right? Now my destructive state, on the contrary, is devastating. It's really destructive. It is the time in my destructive state, I can also lead to suicidal tendencies. That is my personality in terms of good state and destructive state. Now imagine I'm in a destructive state and I have to make that important decision in my life. You know, I don't have to say what will be the quality of decision I will make. And that's where being in your proper state of mind when you create or make any decisions for you is very important. Now you probably are wondering that how will I push myself to the next state of mind? Now see, we are not superwoman or superman, right? We cannot always be in a very good state. But our endeavor here is to, even if you're in a below average state or average state, your endeavor here is to remain at that state for a very short time and consciously push yourself to the top state. And that's what is important when you look at few things that we're going to look in the next slide. Now, this is a slide that I want to show you that when you are in a depressive state and not in a very good state of mind, any decision that you make out of desperation will lead to repulsion. Typically, in the example that I gave you of the gentleman who wanted to set up his business, it was a decision that he was trying to make out of desperation. And that was leading to repulsion, where he was getting frustrated and he was clearly not making a decision that was good for him, but he was thinking that would yield him results, which God knows, I don't know what's going to happen. So what happens is that when you make a decision out of desperation, your eyesight also becomes narrow. And I'd like to explain this particular concept through a beautiful analogy, which my university professor, when I was studying in Manchester, one of the professor gave me this analogy and I just loved it. Now, this is an iceberg. An iceberg analogy is something that is common, but I'd like to show you here, is that 2/3 or the majority of the iceberg, what you see, is deep below the surface. And what you see above the surface is just a minute portion of the iceberg. And when you are in a low state of mind, what comes to your eyes or what is seen as challenges. Now, when I see an iceberg in front of me, and I imagine I'm on a ship and I'm moving, not the Titanic, but I'm on a ship and I'm sailing, and there's an iceberg in front of me, I only see challenges in front of me. And I do not know how to maneuver my direction. And I think that that's where I'm headed to. But what I fail to see is the large opportunity which lies beneath the surface. And that comes with a perspective, a positive perspective, a great state of mind that you are in, because these are the opportunities which are not visible to your naked eyes. And this begins, and how will you make these opportunities visible to your naked eyes? That is by knowing who you are, improving the relationship with yourself, understanding. See, we are all in a hurry, or we focus on improving our relationship with our wife, with our spouse, with our children, with our family members. Our focus is always to improve the relationship with others. But have you ever asked yourself, what is your relationship with yourself? What is the quality of questions you ask yourself? What is the time you spend with yourself? And that's very important to understand, that knowing who you are, understanding the relationship that you maintain with yourself is important. I'll quickly show you a tool which is used by, usually in organizations, which is called as a Johari window. It's a great tool even to improve teamwork. And the objective of this particular tool is it helps people better understand their relationship with themselves as well as with others. So you also understand how others think about yourself and how you can improve your relationship. Now, due to the paucity of time, I will not be able to tell you exactly the exercise in which the exercise or how it is conducted, but I'll give you the concept of what is the meaning of Johari window. Now, there are 4 quadrants here, which is the open quadrant, blind spot, hidden spot, and the unknown spot. Now, if I have to do a Johari window on myself, the open spot or the open quadrant is the quadrant where my personality trait is known to me as well as to the others. Each and every one who's known to me knows what I am as well as it's known to me. And that's called as the arena or the open quadrant. The second one, which is the blind spot, are those characteristics or personality traits that is not known to me, but is known to others. Let me give you an example. A few years back, there was someone who came up to me and said that, oh, you're like a teacher, very strict. I didn't know that people thought about me like this. It's not only probably because I was not smiling, but probably the way I was very, system-oriented, and I was very strict in the way I did things. But, it was not really helpful in terms of building my relationship with people. And when I heard this, the first thing I did is to improve that situation of mine. And I didn't want to come out like a strict person and push people away from me. I wanted to be friendly because that's what I was inside. And that was a great help. Now, how can you reduce your blind spot? The way you can reduce your blind spot is by taking feedback. Like they say, feedback is the breakfast of champions, and you can become a champion when you take feedback from others, because that sets yourself to success. The third quadrant is the hidden quadrant, a quadrant which is like a facade. A facade is something that you deliberately hide from people. Now, I'm not saying you have to go and disclose or disclose all your personal matters, but there are many things that you may not be transparent in your teamwork within your team, which kind of can create a barrier between your team people, between your other teammates and yourself. And obviously, to have harmony in relationships, you do not want to do that. You want to be transparent, right? So there has to be a conscious effort there to reduce that hidden quadrant as well. Last but not the least, which is the unknown quadrant. This is a quadrant which you are not aware of, nor the others are aware of, which means there is so much of potential in you which is not known to you. And because of the state of mind that you're in, most of the time, we fail to understand what is our hidden potential. We are filled with responsibilities. We are so bogged down with all the responsibilities around us and the expectations of the society that we fail to bring out the best in us. 8 years back, I got introduced to public speaking. And that is the time, till that time, I thought I was a very confident speaker, right? Convent educated, and I knew that what I wanted to do. But it is when I came there, I realized there is so much more to public speaking and communication that I can improve. And I realized that that is where my passion lies. Public speaking, communication, being a corporate banker, having my own business for the last 24 years, I yet chose a direction that was a part of who I was. And to reduce the unknown quadrant, what needs to be done is give yourself as much opportunities so that you can bring out the best in you. Now, the objective of this exercise is to improve make the open quadrant bigger and reduce the blind, hidden, and the unknown quadrant. Because it is when you are in your own element and you're in your most transparent self, can you improve relationships with others and with yourself. You'll be in your more authentic manner when you are operating in your most authentic place. And that's the whole objective of Johari window. Now that you've understood, at least you have understood what is the importance of understanding who you are. And you now want to set up your success quotient or your success blueprint. For example, if you want to set up a business, you don't just jump into saying, okay, now I know myself, I'll now just go and set up that business. There are, again, few more things that you need to understand before you take any important decision in your life. And one of them is the wheel of life. This is a very, very simple tool. We, as human beings, we have different areas. It's not just career or personal or professional life is not just the 2-3 areas that we have. There are various other areas in our life. Social life, relationship, health, passion, possession, wealth, all of this represent our different areas of life. And you can achieve harmony or balance in your life when you know this wheel of life is pretty balanced. Now, how this works is you have different spokes which you see which is in each of these areas. And you see the number from 1 to 10. For example, you take finance for that matter. And if I ask you, Iba, if you have to rate yourself between 1 to 10, as your life stands today, you could probably give me a rating with utmost transparency. I don't want you to give me the rating, but I'm just interacting with you. Now, assuming that you give me a rating of 7, or would you like to do this with me, Hiba? Are you comfortable doing with me?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, all right. So this is a wheel of life, and we'll just try it out with Hiba now. Hiba, if you have to rate your life as it stands today, between 1 to 10, your finance, between 1 to 10, I would recommend you ignore 5 because 5 is as good as sitting on the fence. So 1 to 10, what would be your finance situation as of today?
I would say it would be sitting at 6.
Sitting at 6. All right. Your personal growth between 1 to 10, what would it be?
Right. So for personal growth, I could chunk it either into years or possibly last 3 years. So the way that I work is I'm going to look at this year. And for personal growth this year, I would rate myself at 7.
At 7. Great.
Yes.
And health, as far as health is concerned, what would be your rating?
I wanted to say 5, but since 5 sits in the middle, I would say 6.
6.
I could do better in health.
All right.
With family, I would say 4, because I haven't seen my family for a long time. So family members, but we're still connecting, we're still seeing each other. And I think I should do more in terms of, either trying to talk to them more, trying to have those Zoom meetings, or just engage with my family members more.
All right. And the next one, relationships.
Relationships. One of my strengths is really building relationships. So I think I do well here. I would say 7.
Great. Okay.
Social
And,
life.
yeah.
Social life, since the pandemic, we have not had that great social life, but I would say in general, I would say 7.
Okay.
In terms of attitude, I have a positive attitude towards life and towards work and towards everything. So I would also say I'm sitting at 6 or 7.
All right. And career?
In terms of career, I would also do the same, say 6 or 7.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Now, Hiba has already given me her marking. And if I had to join all those dots that she has given me, it would look something like this, right? Hiba, this is not yours. This is not yours, but it's just an example, right? This is something like this, right? Now, whoever has done this is just an example. If you look at it, the financial aspect, the family, and the relationship is pretty much low. Now, the others are at 6 and 7. Now, it does not mean that 7 and you remain at 7. You can always push yourself to a 9 and a 10. But the focus that you have to draw your focus are to 3 main areas, which is the finance, relationship, and family. Similarly, in your case, probably it was a finance, right? You mentioned finance, family that you
I mentioned, yes.
Yes.
Finance, family,
and social life because of COVID, obviously, right?
Yes, of course.
Right. Okay. So this basically gives you a great idea of where you stand in your life as it stands today. So when we are trying to build up a great business or a great personal life or a great career, we know that there are areas which we also need to focus on, which is often underestimated or often ignored because we do not know that even they exist. We do not know even the extended family exists. We don't even know that there's an attitude that plays a great role in building our success. So when you look at all of these areas in a holistic manner, you get a wheel that is balanced. Now imagine you have to go on Sheikh Zayed Road at 160 kilometers per hour, and you have a wheel that is crooked, and you have to reach Abu Dhabi in probably 1.5 hours time, and you take 3 or 4 hours, obviously that's not going to work for you, right? Similarly, the concept is the same. When you have a wheel that is crooked, whatever efforts that you put in is always going to yield results that are of low quality. And that's the concept of wheel of life. So as we move forward, now that you have an idea of wheel of life, it doesn't stop there. There are certain integral parts, or the nuances that you need to take care of when you look at designing your life. Now, in the coaching language, there are various other aspects that we look at, but I cannot discuss all of that today, but there are 3 important aspects that I'm going to discuss, and they are the baselines, the coding, and your surrounding. Let's start with the baseline. What is a baseline? A baseline is basically your belief system or your value system that you grew up with, something that you cannot change unless there is a huge traumatic event that happens in your life. For example, when my dad passed away, I had the thing that, okay, it happens to me, and I completely lost trust in people, whereas people had nothing to do with it. But it could probably change if that was my belief system. It can shift the way I think about it. But essentially, baselines cannot be changed. And why are baselines important? Baselines are important because what you do and what you feel inside, the alignment or the coherence between the 2 aspects are very important. Now imagine freedom is one of your biggest baseline, for example. and you are in a job where you have absolutely no freedom of expression, no freedom of doing anything. Are you going to be happy in that job forever? Or if you're going to set up a business for yourself, which is going to tie you down and not give you any opportunities to interact with people, travel, do things that you want, you may set up a business. You may be happy for the first 6 months or first 2 years of life, but what about a sustainable success that we are talking about here? In my case, making a difference is the biggest baseline, one of my biggest baseline. Now there is an exercise in which we come down to 6 top baselines from the 357 baselines that is given by the system. Making a difference in others' life is one of the biggest baseline of mine. Now, what did I do when I wrote the book? I had a pain there. I decided to write a book because writing a book was the best thing for me to do because it had the potential for me to make a difference in others' lives. I later moved on to the coaching business, and that is where I have a huge potential to make a difference in others' lives. So the commercial aspect is one thing. That is always the result of what you do. If you do it well, you're definitely going to get it. But what about what you do? Does it meet the baselines that you have? Is it in sync with who you are as a person? Because what you do and what you believe, if they're two different things, there's always going to be friction between the mind and the heart. And that's why baseline is extremely important. The second thing is your mindset. Your mindset is your integrated power coding is what we look at. Now, when my dad passed away, the first thing that I thought was that anyone and everyone that I will love will leave me and go. This was the coding that was in my mind. And it was so difficult for me to build great relationships with people because I knew that I would guard myself because I thought the moment I got close to them, this is going to happen. Now, it's not true. It is purely my illusion. But that was how my mind had processed it. Now, the coding is the meaning that you give to certain incidents that happen in your life. For example, if you've been bullied in school, you develop a certain understanding or certain meaning to that incident, what happens. And that is what is going to carry forward for the rest of your life, unless you make a conscious decision to change it. Again, it is a process-based system where the codings, which are negative codings, that are converted into positive codings. But I want to highlight here is that your negative self-belief about yourself saying, I'm not good enough, I'll fall flat on my face. What if I don't do it? What do people think about me? Yes, no, I'm stuck. All these are the negative codes that are a result of certain incidents that have happened in your life and the meaning that you have given to those incidents. It's just your meaning that you have given, and you need to consciously work on these coding systems, because if these belief systems are going to remain with you for the rest of your life, anything and everything that you want to do in the future will always have an impact created by these codes. So these are called as integrated power coding in our coaching language. The last thing that I want to talk about is your surrounding. Now, Jim Rohn says, you are the average of 5 people you spend the most time with. So true, isn't it? And I say, show me your friends and I'll tell you your future. It's very important to know the type of people or the kind of people that you spend time with. And we don't categorize, we essentially look at it as toxic people. Now, toxic people do not necessarily mean that they're bad people, all right? Toxic does not mean that they're bad, but they are those people who do not add value to your life or your performance or push you to the next level. So take a moment, look around, see for yourself, who are the kind of people that you spend most of the time with? Sometimes toxic people are a part of your family as well, but doesn't mean that you're going to avoid them. No, not at all. But you can always manage the time that you spend with them. There are ways in which you can do it. Obviously, I cannot discuss all of it right now, but that's a process-based system. But what's important for you to know is, who are you surrounding? The kind of people that you spend time with. Are you spending 5 hours of your day with a person who does not help you in any way to move forward? Then you need to relook at that person, relook at the way you're looking at things, and redo things. The next one is a mastermind. Who are the people that you are moving around with? Are you moving around with like-minded people? If you want to set up your business, so if you want to build a great relationship, if you are going to build a great relationship, are you moving around with people who have great relationship themselves? Or are you moving with people who themselves have terrible relationship, which is going to have an impact in your own relationship? You have to look, it's very important to look at these things, because that is going to determine the quality of life you're going to have going forward. Now, there are things that you cannot avoid. I'm not saying you have to avoid all these people, but you can always make a choice, the right choice of how much time you want to spend with them. Now, all these steps that I have mentioned are taken care in the 5 steps that I take in my coaching program. It's a 10-week process, which is called as the Incredible You, where the first step is where you look at your inner DNA, where we take care of your baselines, your wheel of life. And we look at things where the baselines, which area of your life are these baselines existing? And if they're not, we find a way to see how you can make these baselines present in those areas of your life. Because sometimes you have no choice, right? You have a job, but probably it does not suit your baseline. Then what do? But then you can always find a balance to see how you can make these baselines present in those areas. The second one is integrated power coding, which I've just spoken about. The third one is the outcomes. Outcomes are those, most of the time we talk about goals and SMART goals and all of this. And the goals are something that comes out as a result of your dream. You may have goals, but do you have enough capacity to pursue your goal and reach the outcome? And outcomes are things that happens because of a certain action that you put in place. Now, this is itself is an incorrect process that we put you through. That outcomes are where you will look at those, you'll set priorities of things that you have to do. So today you want to set up you want to have a great job, you want to change your job, you want to have a great relationship, you want to lose weight. There are 3-4 things that you have to look at, right? But you yourself, probably the priority today for you is to look at your job. But this is a system which will clearly tell you what is your number 1 priority, the way you rate things. And there is a system in which we do it. And that's how you know which is the focus or where is the focus that you have to put in. The fourth one is unleash you. Unleash is a step where you learn to make powerful decisions. Because again, I have made a lot of wrong decisions in my life, but I always have this habit of looking at them and setting them right. But that's a waste of time. It takes a lot of time. But imagine you can make your decisions by being aware of things that you know may or may not happen. You rest assured that you're going to have some really strong decisions that you're going to make. It does not mean 100% of your decisions are going to be perfect, but at least you know that the probability of achieving success in those decisions is very high. Last but not the least, which is the 5th step, which is a success blueprint, where you create your own success blueprint and take accountability of all the 4 or the 8 weeks that you've gone through and put your action or put your plan into action. Basically, take accountability of what plans you have for your life. Finally, what happens with all of this? You've heard the concept of ikigai. It's a Japanese concept. A Japanese concept which is basically talks about your passion, your purpose, your direction in life. Now, when what you do what you're good at and what you love, and you do something where the world needs you, and you also paid for it, imagine the harmony you create in your life. Most of the time, all these 4, the Venn diagram, what you're seeing is always distorted. They're always in different directions. And that's where you are sitting in that ikigai position and looking, wondering, where am I? Why are all these things not coming together? But when your passion, your mission, your vocation, and your profession come together, that is when you find your ikigai. Before I leave you, I'll just quickly, as a shortcut, this is not the solution, but I'll give you a shortcut. In case if you're feeling stuck in life, there are a few things that you can do. 3 steps that you can do is, first of all, understand your why. Find the why that you're doing it. What is the why? Are you passionate enough to do that, to pursue your passion as much as you're passionate about breathing? Well, you have no choice. Even if you're not passionate, you still have to breathe, right? So you have to find that reason, your why, of why you're doing it. The second one is always link it to a reward or consequence. For example, People do things for pure pleasure or pain, right? There is either pain or pleasure that is associated with why you do things. You have to identify that. For example, if you're in sales business and you have to make 30 calls today, what are you going to gain by doing these 30 calls? If you do 2 calls, 3 calls, 5 calls, or 10 calls, these are the consequences, or these are the rewards that I'm going to give myself. And if I'm not going to give my reward, if I'm not going to achieve that, then what is the consequence? Probably you can post it on Facebook saying that I didn't achieve my result and I'm completely useless. Well, that's just a joke, all right? I mean, I know it's a dirty, I mean, it's a stale joke, but think of the consequences, and consequences where you feel scared and you do not want to achieve those consequences. So reward yourself and link it with why you want to achieve it. And the third step is link it to your values. 80% of your focus is determined by your top 2 values. When you identify what your values is, the effort that you put in will be at that level. When you know that your values are not in coherence with what you do, your effort to do that or your passion to pursue that particular direction is much low. Therefore, ensure that you first find out your why, you link it to a reward or consequence, and also link your values to what you do. These are the 3 most important things that you can do in case you're feeling stuck or you are suffering from procrastination and not able to get up to do this exercise in the morning or do certain things in your life what you always wanted to do. Now, finally, this is anyone wants to have more information on this particular session that I've had, I hope you enjoyed the session. We're exactly 1 hour. And I hope you've enjoyed the session. You can always get in touch with me through my Instagram, my LinkedIn, my email, and my website. And like I promised, I'm going to post the link, the personality assessment link, which you can always take. And if required, I'll be offering a 1-hour free discovery session to anyone who's interested. You can always approach me, because what this discovery session will help you do is find clarity on why and what you want to do in life. It'll be a great way to connect with yourself and understand why you want to do and what is the direction that you have to take. Basically, it'll give you more clarity. So I'll be offering that free of charge for 1 hour. And with that, these are my details. You can note it down, or in case if you do not have them, and if you feel like contact me at a later stage, you can always contact Hiba. Hiba is a lovely person and she's always there to help. She can always give you the information.
If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box, and we still have like 5 minutes to so that Jyothika can answer them. I have also shared the link to the personality test. I just want to say that personality tests are great tools for giving you more self-awareness about yourself. And self-awareness is a cornerstone of emotional intelligence and of everything that you need in life to learn more about yourself and the relationships. So find out more about yourself, and please feel free to type in your questions in the chat box. We still have some time. Or even better, you can unmute yourself and ask Jyothika the question directly.
I think Nilesh had a question here.
Nilesh, did you have a question?
Nilesh Nagnaware.
Hello, Habiba. Hello, Jyothika. I was very helpful, and I hope you can hear my voice clearly. It's coming through.
Yes, we can. Oh, you can't hear him, Jyothika?
Okay.
Yes, now
Jyothika, is better now?
Yes, it's better, Nilesh.
Well, I had a question earlier. You were speaking about the state of mind. There are to be a key state of mind, like it. We need to know what state of mind we are before we make a decision. So I would like to know how I can be sure what state of mind I am in. Like I can be in denial, and then I could be denying myself that no, I'm not in a bad state of mind, and then I'm denying again. So this will be like a loop.
Double
for me.
denial.
If you can share some double kind of. Thank you.
Yes. If you look at the report, I think you've already done the report, Nilesh, right? Did you do the report, or it was just a question? I think you've not done. Well, you see the report
no,
actually.
I
Right. Okay. The report, if you look at it, once you complete it, it has different states of mind. Now, usually the longer report, this is a shorter one, but usually the report gives you the percentage of your top 2%, the top 2 states that you spend your time in most of the time. That does not mean that you will not be in your destructive state or your below average state, but the effort there is to spend most of your time in your good state. Now, to answer your question, the report itself will tell you what is the state of mind that you're spending in, depending on the answers that you have given for the question. All right? Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. It does.
Now, if the report that you're doing, if it does not give you the percentage, you can always go through the different state of mind and see which one resonates with you the most.
It's clear. It's clear. Thank you.
Obviously, when you take a discovery session, you can always have a detailed report where you will know the better state of mind. I mean, the actual true state of mind. Thank you, Nipesh.
Anyone else would like to ask or to speak to Jyothika? Well, you have all her details. If you have any questions after you take the assessment, if you want to reach out straight to Jyothika, you can do that. And you can also email me or get in touch with me and we will connect you with her. This brings us to the end of the session. Thank you to everyone who attended today. Thank you, Jyothika, for a very well informative and enlightening session. I hope that everybody has benefited today. There's always something new that we can learn every single day from every single session. And thank you for Dubai Knowledge Park for this partnership and for hosting this session in partnership with them.